and welcome back. My name is India and I happen to read a lot, and today we are going to be talking about one of my favourite videos. Well, I say, oh no, this is the second time I've done it. Okay, I thought it was the first time I've done it. One of my most favourite videos to film. Why is somebody doing yard work? Do they not know I'm trying to do a video? Today we are going to be talking about all of my favourite books that I read in the year of 2025. This is the first time in a very long time that I have done under 20 books, because I've read over 150 books over the last 2 years. This year I read 108 books, and more of my yearly wrap up in a future video. But this year I read 108 books, which meant that it was a lot easier to narrow down my books. So I've narrowed down my top 12 books. Still, I made it to 10, and then every time I would set it in stone and be like, cool, these are my top 10, I'd remember another book that I read. So we ended up making it to 12. It's a big variety. We've got romance, we've got non-fiction, we've got thriller. If any of you have watched my top 5 murder mysteries of the year, a lot of these will have crossed over. We have manga, we have YA books, which I know is not a genre, but you know what I mean. But we've got a big eclectic mix to talk about today. So please buckle in, get some food, get a nice drink, and it's time to talk about my top 12 books of the year. Gonna put myself on Do Not Disturb. These are ranked. I don't normally rank most of my favorite kinds of videos because I don't really see the point, but I do 100% rank my top books of the year. So yeah, let's just jump into it. And I'm very excited for this one. I literally ran around my house top to fucking bottom to try and find this book because it desperately needed to be on this list. And that book is Bookish by Lucy Mangan. So this is a non-fiction book that I read leading up to a literary festival I was a part of. They do a week-long one, and in March they do a kind of little weekend, and I went with my colleague Dan. There's a vlog you can watch, and I specifically contacted the publishers and requested to read this because I knew I was going to be meeting the author because I was selling the author's books at this festival. So as you can see, it is very well loved because I have all of these nice little annotations, and I won't read any of these out because this is a proof copy. So this was a really, really fun reading experience. This is the second in Lucy Mangan's memoirs about reading. The first book is on my list for 26 books I want to read in 2026, which is a video that'll be coming out, and that is all about her childhood reading. This is all about her new adult to adult reading and how that has shaped her life and what she has learned from these books. So it was so much fun. I'm pretty sure there is a list. There is a list on the back of the book which lists all the books that she's mentioned. It was honestly one of the most fun reading experiences. I have not read many memoirs in my life. I don't read much. Definitely that is kind of one of the non-fiction genres that I want to focus on in the new year, purely based because of how much I love this. But yeah, we follow her from kind of GCSEs all the way to now. We follow her wedding, her marriage, the birth of her first child. There's a lot in this where I can relate to her, which I think was really, really enjoyable. I just really loved finding out, and I think this is probably part of the reason why I'm a bookseller. I love knowing what books have shaped people's lives, and learning this and being able to get inside this woman's brain was just so interesting. She is incredibly witty, incredibly funny. I love her look at her viewpoint on books, the thought process she has about books. There's so much that her thought processes surrounding books match mine. So it was a very cathartic and very enjoyable reading experience. I am so happy I read this. I think this is a great book, kind of similar to, where is it? Every Day I Read, where I would recommend these two books kind of in tandem if you're somebody that who's just got into reading or knows a friend of somebody that's just got into reading and they really have fallen in love with it and they just want to read about it. I would recommend this. This is amazing for an early beginner. This is amazing for somebody that you know is an absolute book lover in their life and kind of wants to read a book by a like-minded individual. And it's also incredibly fun and witty and so incredibly relatable. I just absolutely loved it, and I'm going to insert a photo that we took together when I made her sign this. Let me show you. Ta-da! In 11th place is Till Death by Basaya Mataluko. This is, and I've spoken about this in my murder mystery top 5 murder mysteries of the year, so that is linked down below. This is an incredible YA mystery following a young woman called Lara who is going to Nigeria to celebrate her cousin's wedding, and once she gets there she realizes her cousin is being threatened to call off the wedding, and because she is an avid true crime fan, avid mystery novel fan and wannabe criminologist, she takes it upon herself to find out who is threatening her cousin. It is so good. It is so good. It is perfect for those kinds of, if you're a fan of Gossip Girl, One of Us is Lying, things like that, you will really, really enjoy this. It has a perfect balance of fun, witty, entertaining YA cliches like exes and best friends that fall out and kind of backstabbing in a fun way. But also at the heart of this novel is a really, really, really important issue that Basayo talks about in such great length and in such a beautiful way. It had me learning so much about. And I don't want to say too much, because it does lead into spoilers for the murderer and motive and things like that, so I don't want to say anything. Found myself really enjoying the fun, entertaining aspects of the expensive parties and, oh my God, the groom's just gone into a room with his ex-girlfriend. Like, I enjoyed all of that fun, entertaining stuff, but it was the 75% mark onwards for me that really solidified this as a favorite. I think Basayo does an amazing job at balancing fun, witty, hilarious anecdotes with just solid heart, balancing the kind of darker moments with the happier moments. And I just thought it was so much fun. Lara is an incredible character that you cannot help but root for. You want nothing but amazing things for her. I see myself a lot in Lara because I am somebody that would love the opportunity to solve a mystery. When is that going to happen in my life? And I really appreciate the struggles that she goes through in this book, especially when it comes to talking to her parents about her aspirations and goals, which differ from what her parents want from her. I just really, really enjoyed her as a character. Thought the plot was fun. I thought the ending was absolutely 10 out of 10 incredible. If you are thinking of someone in your life that loves a good YA thriller, this needs to be on the top of your list. Forget everything else. Put them down. Read this. In 10th place, another book that was mentioned in my top 5 murder mysteries of the year is The Killer Question by Janice Hallett. For those of you who have been following me on my blog or my social media, or you're new here, I have a deep, 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 deep love for Janice Hallett's books. Is a author that I've been reading every single one of her books the year it comes out. I even read her kids' book. I'm a massive fan of her work. This follows Sue and Mal, who are landlords and pub owners of The Case is Altered, a pub that is just off the main stretch of road, and they are trying to find their footing as they have recently bought it, and they start putting on pub quizzes in hopes to gain traction and gain more customers. One day they kick out a man that has entered their pub, and the next day he is found dead. So the police all swarm the pub and use it as a base to try and investigate what's happened to this man, and this man may or may not have known Sue and Mal from their past. Alongside that, there is also a plot point of a mysterious group of individuals that come in, and Sue and Mal are very, very adamant that they are cheating on the pub quiz. And you must be thinking to yourself, India, what? A guy gets kicked out of a pub and dies, and there is a cheating pub quiz scandal. Why is this in your top 12 books of the year? Because Janice Hallett never does anything by halves. She will introduce you to a plot line where you go, this seems very tame, and it's not. Okay, it's not. Expectations, put them higher up, because this is incredible. This is, I've said this before, but Janice Hallett is a screenwriter. So one of the things that I really, really appreciate about her work is her epistolary style of writing. She is used to writing in kind of just dialogue and notes like that. So she writes her books through text messages, which means, in my opinion, she is the master of dialogue. It's very entertaining to see how Janice Hallett can make it very clear and distinct through her dialogue which character's talking, especially with two characters that own the same phone and they don't have their own personal phones. I think the plot in this is super incredible. There are so many plot threads that weave its way through the story that Janice Hallett ties up really nicely. If you want a twisty, turny story, this in tenfolds. The minute you think you know where it's going, just give up at the fact that you don't. You don't know where this is going. Janice Hallett can take a story about a pub quiz cheating scandal and blow your mind. This is genuinely, I mean, if you haven't picked up a Janice Hallett novel in your life, I don't think you know what you're doing, and you should read it immediately. One of my favourite crime authors of all time, and the 10th pick on my list. At some point, we will move away from my top 5 murder mysteries list, but then we have All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. But this is a really, really good contemporary thriller following the first black sheriff in his hometown who tries to solve the mystery of a serial killer that has been living under the radar in his hometown for years. If you are a fan of things like Criminal Minds and CSI, things like that, you will really, really enjoy this. This is, and I said it in my video, something that I don't normally read. I don't really read contemporary thrillers with detectives or police or sheriffs. Even though they are incredibly popular, I tend to prefer more quirky or cozy mysteries. This has been the book that's convinced me. I don't know why I've been doing that for years, and I need to pick up more of those books. I feel like the standout thing about this book, yes, the plot's really good and you don't know where it's going to go half the time, but Titus Crown, our main character, is incredible. Such a nuanced and layered character. He is somebody, and I've said this, so please check out that video because I definitely said it in a more nuanced way than I have now. But one of the things that I really like about him is not only his no-nonsense approach, but his belief in community and his belief for wanting better for people and the people that he has sworn to protect, even if these people are racist scumbags, but he still wants the best for them. And I think that is a very noble thing that he doesn't necessarily, like, can be me. I think the mystery plotline is incredibly good. I liked all the characters. I think the conversations about grief and trying to move on from grief and PTSD is done really, really well in this. I picked this up because I saw a video, I believe it was on the press tour for King of Ashes, which is S.A. Cosby's most recent book. And he was so incredibly funny and witty. And I was like, oh my God, let me read this book. Incredibly depressing and incredibly dark and incredibly traumatic. And they do this sometimes, don't they? These authors that are so like fun and witty can get into the depths of the human soul, but this was just so much fun. So if you're a fan of Criminal Minds or CSI or those kind of books, and you kind of like stories on the darker side, because I will say check trigger warnings. I was literally reading this on the bus like this because there is some harrowing stuff written in these pages, and I was like, I don't want anybody on the bus to see what I'm reading. If you kind of like those kinds of stories, then this is perfect. It's definitely inspired me to kind of step out of my comfort zone and read more of those detective thrillers, which I've not been reading that much of. Then in 8th place is Divine Rivals, which is a YA epistolary fantasy book that came out in April of 2023. I know it's a proof copy. I actually received this at the end of 2023. Still took me 2 years to read, but we move on. I should have listened to the TikTok girlies when they recommended this book, but some of your recommendations scare me, and it took me this long to read it. This is a really, really good epistolary fantasy novel following two rival journalists who forge a connection through mysterious letters, of which they both don't know that they hate each other during the day, and then they write these really nice letters to each other at night, not knowing the other person is on the other side of the magical letters. You've got to read the book to understand, okay? But not only this, in the background of this story is a fantastical magical war that has sent Iris's brother to the front lines. And then our favourite two here also find themselves at the front line of the war. It is really good. It's a really hard book randomly to explain because I don't know why, but I struggle every time I talk about this book. But this is really good. It's an epistolary novel, which all of you again will know that I love. I love stories told through different forms of prose. If it's not prose, love it. I don't know what that means about me, but I love it. And the romance in this, incredible. The characters as a whole, incredible. The plot line in this, incredible. Now, I went into this thinking, okay, I know it's a romance. It's probably gonna be a little bit of fun. I just wanna say, out there to everybody, no one, in my opinion, that I've personally seen is giving enough props to Rebecca Ross and her fantasy writing. The world and the setup and the lore and the background of this world and that forms the basis of this story is so fucking good. It's so good. Everybody talks about the romance, and yes, the romance is incredible and I do really, really like it. But the fantasy world is incredible. This is also a duology. For those of you who don't know, I'm a duology stan. Let's wrap that up in 2 books, okay? I'm either the longest series known to man or a standalone in a duology. I don't know what it is about books of 3 or 5. I just love a duology. So, but yeah, I just thought the world was amazing. And I do think that it doesn't get enough props on the internet for how interesting the magic system is, the world, the gods, everything. I remember reading it and being like, I came for the romance, but very much staying for everything else. I think all the side characters are so good. I think the plot is incredible. I've normally, I don't see many like war-themed fantasy stories that are outside of kind of like, you know, sword and shield war. So when I think of wars in fantasy, I do think of, you know, fireballs and swords and shields, right? But this is very reminiscent of kind of World War I, World War II elements, which I don't really see in fantasy, which is again why I think I liked the fantasy in the world so much, is because we were seeing a fantasy war in a way that I've not seen it done before. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm rambling. But yeah, no, this was really good. And yes, if you are a romantasy girly, you will get everything that you want out of this. But if you are somebody that's been thinking about this and going, oh, well, I've just been hearing about the romance, the plot is so good. The fantasy world is so good. You're going to look at fantasy war in a slightly different way in the way that she does this. It's incredibly inventive. And it's really interesting because we're seeing it from the point of view of civilians and journalists rather than the hero at the front lines. Then in 7th place is a repeat of a book that you may have seen on my top 5 graphic novel and manga videos. It's A Sign of Affection by Sue Morishita. This is a contemporary new adult romance following our main character Yuki, who is deaf, and the polyglot of a man that she meets and falls in love with. She basically ends up teaching him sign language, and their romance blossoms from there. It's a really, really good, and I find this quite a lot of times with romances that I see in manga tends to be either fantasy or secondary school, high school kind of vibe. I haven't seen many romances that are adult, and that's probably partly down to me not going out of what I see in the mainstream that much. But I only knew about Sweat and Soap, which I've been reading loads of, which is a workplace adult romance. And this. So it's set at a university. We follow Yuki. One day she meets Itsuomi, who is a polyglot, and he learns loads of languages, and then they basically team up so she can teach him sign language, and then love blossoms from there. But it's really good. It's really witty. It's really funny. It has one of my favorite tropes, which is you missed your chance. She's now with a hotter, nicer guy, and then it's not really a trope. It's probably a trope. There's probably a name for it, but I really like it when you meet somebody that missed out on their opportunity, and now the main character has met someone else who's nicer, but there's still that jealousy element there. And like the new guy's like, what are you doing? That's my girl. And then he's like, should have been mine. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but there's specific panels in this that I love. But yeah, it's really good. It's just a really good, solid contemporary romance. And I've been really into my contemporary romances over the last couple of years. You all know this. So it's good to be able to get it more in manga form. And I've spoken about this in my other videos, so please check that one out. But the way that sign language is utilized in this manga is really amazing. It's not wholly accurate, and there is a lot of kind of statements that the author makes about trying to convert a very, very visual, moving language into a static print format, which is very, very different. But also all the people and beta readers and people who are either deaf or hard of hearing, or, sign language interpreters that have been involved in this process is really, really good. It's a really fun contemporary romance. It has all the tropes that you would like. If you are a contemporary romance fan and you want to try something a bit different, please do check out A Sign of Affection. Continuing on to the contemporary romance vein, we have Collide by Balcabra, which is a hockey sports romance also set at a university. I'm just really liking university romances, it seems. This follows our two main characters, whose names I always forget, Summer and Aiden. Summer is a sports psychologist student, and Aiden is the captain of the hockey team, and they are basically forced together to work on Summer's final project. And obviously it's a romance novel, so they fall in love the entire time. But this is so good, and I've been obsessed with Balcabra's work ever since. I have also then read the sequel Spiral, which is a hockey ballet player story, and I'm planning on reading Revolve as my second book in January, which is an ice skater hockey romance, and she's just announced the fourth one. It's definitely my favourite sports romance series. Fun, witty, great side characters, and I've said this once and I'll say it again. For me to be obsessed with your romance, I have to believe in the side characters, because if you have good side characters, I believe that your main characters are more likeable and more relatable and are more believable as fully formed characters if I love the friends and the family that are associated with these main characters. And I love these. The series follows the members of the hockey team as like the kind of main focuses, but it's really good. And yeah, that's like the standout thing is, yes, all the romances are great, but I really like the family and the friends that we meet along the way. But yeah, really, really good. Really like the main couple. Probably say I think I like the main couple more in Spiral, not for any other reason, they're all solid, but I thought I would represent this one more because it has everything encompassed in it that I like the most, but it's really here as a representative of the rest of the series. But really, really good. I didn't realise how much of a hockey sports romance fan I am, but yeah, great witty characters, amazing side characters. I think the trajectory and the pacing of their romance is done really well. I just really, really enjoyed this. Loved them as a couple, loved the communication, liked how they did the 3-act thing. It's just a 10 out of 10 romance book. Most likely my favourite romance book of the year. Then we enter my top 5, and apart from this one, it goes very fantasy focused. So this is the last non-fantasy book you will get on this list. But first up, and again, you would have seen this in my top 5 murder mysteries, is The Art of a Lie by Laura Shepherd Robinson. This is an incredible historical mystery that I can't say too much about because the spoilers start very heavy on. I'm talking chapter 5. Chapter 5 is when we shift gears and you finally realize what you're getting yourself into. But this follows Hannah. Hannah is a sweet shop owner that she runs with her husband that was passed on to her by her father, and she loves it. It's her pride and joy. And one day her husband goes out for the evening and never comes back home. She finds out that he has been murdered, and he's also now being investigated for gambling and obtaining money through illicit means. This also means that if whoever is in charge of that, because I don't understand how it really works, it's explained well in the book, if it's found out that he's obtained this money through illicit means, not only will she lose her life insurance from her husband, she will most likely lose the family sweet shop, she'll be destitute on the streets, so will her employees. It is a very, very scary time to be this woman. So she ends up enlisting the help from a mysterious gentleman who will help her find out, one, if her husband was murdered, and two, has he been using and gaining his money from illicit means? And if he has, is there any way that Hannah can make it look like he hasn't? It's a very good twisty-wisty, backstabby, you don't know who to trust kind of story. Laura Shepherd Robinson knows her Georgian England. It's Sarah on the Times, for example. It's the Bridgertons, people. It's the Bridgertons. She knows that era incredibly well. What I think is so good about this is one of her other books, Daughters of Night, was also one of my favourite books of the year. Actually, Daughters of Night was my favourite book of the year that I read it. So we're back on form with putting this in. What I will say, the ending, I actually felt the physical sensation of my heart ripping out of my chest, or feeling my heart go into my arse because of the ending of this book. This will take you for an emotional whirlwind. It's more than just a mystery. It's more of a layer. There's a literary element to it because it's not just the mystery. It's not just, we've got to find out what's going on. Here's the detective. Here's the psychic. Here's your cast of characters. It is a lot more complicated. This needs to be immediately adapted into a limited series. Stat, BBC, I'm looking at you. This will rip your heart out. You'll probably, if you aren't reading it in the middle of a prep like I was, probably find yourself sobbing and being able to struggle to breathe at the ending. It's so good. Then in fourth place, going back to Divine Rivals, of reading a book that I've been putting down for ages, we have A Winter's Promise by Christelle Debeau, a book that I've been meaning to read for about, I would say, a decade and haven't picked up. This is a YA fantasy book that I cannot begin. If you're a fan of The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, if you're a fan of the vibes of Labyrinth, because it's not like Labyrinth, but it's the vibes of the movie Labyrinth with David Bowie. If you like Caraval, if you like any of those whimsical but serious books, you will really enjoy this. This is translated from French, and this follows our main character, Ophelia. Ophelia lives in a world that is kind of, the only way I can describe it is a little bit post-destruction, where it kind of feels like, and I could be wrong, the world blew up and now all of the world is orbiting around this one core on little islands. And the survivors of that world went off and created own family trees and things like that. And she lives on an ark, as it's called, which I've now forgotten, Anima. And the people of Anima have the abilities to work with objects. So Ophelia has two abilities. One, by touching an object, she can remember the history of this object. And also she can walk through mirrors, hence why the series is called The Mirror Visitor. One day, she's living on her life. She just likes to work in the museum, live her life. She finds out her family have married her off. Bitches. They've married her off to a man called Thorn, who is a member of a powerful clan on an ark that is cold and distant. And the people on this ark have more of a physical manifestation kind of power. And it's all about her moving from the life that she kind of loved to this mysterious, politically intense and complicated arc where not everything is as it seems, and her marriage is not exactly as it seems, and she legit can't trust anyone. It's a slow-paced book, and you know me, if you've been on here this channel a lot, you know that I'm not a massive slow-paced book fan. It's slow-paced because you really need to set up every single element of who these characters are, what motivates them, all these tiny plot points for then at the end to be like, buckle in, bitches. I really enjoyed the world. I really enjoyed how unlikable a lot of these characters are, but they're written in a way where it's done well and not, you're not going to go, well, I hated them. Like, you hate them, but you know that there's a reason why you hate them. It's good writing. The romance in it is very slow burn. Very slow burn. There is an inkling of a romance, but I don't think anything's really going to happen until the final book. There's 4 books in this series. It's incredible. Just so much fun. very interesting. I mean, if you just like, it's kind of a walking, talking book, but a fantasy version, which normally I'm not a walking, talking book fan, but it's so good. There is a mystery to it, but this book is setting up a lot of points. But if you love whimsy and just being a part of a world and watching a character exist in a world and try to find their footing with a little bit of understanding that there's a mystery flowing through, you'll love this. It's really weird. It's like the complete opposite of what I normally enjoy. Character focused, slow paced, not that much happens, and yet I gobbled that shit up. And I've already planned what month I'm going to read the sequel. In third place, moving on to a book that I read very, very recently, and this is The Will of the Many by James Islington. This follows orphan Viz as he is adopted by a member of the Senate to enroll into the Catenan Academy to investigate the mysterious death of his adoptive father's brother. What his adoptive father doesn't know is that Viz is actually an orphan from a kingdom that the Catenan Republic colonized and oppressed, and they killed his entire family. And he is actually the prince of that kingdom, surviving as much as he can in a republic that was out to get him. And he agrees to be this adoptive son to be able to allow him to get further in life and not basically die on the streets. And he attends this academy. And if any of you were on the internet last year or the year before, when everybody was talking about this being their favorite book of the year, I get it. It's really, really good. It's heavily inspired by ancient Rome. And I'm not really an ancient Rome fan, but it was done really, really well here. The characters are really good. Viz, I really like as a character. I really like being in his head. I think the world building is amazing, and I think James Islington knows that this book requires a lot of time to read it. So I would say like every 100 pages, James Islington will drop another jaw-dropping plot twist where you go, fuck, now I've got to factor in a lot of different pieces of information you're giving me. It's a really good political fantasy. The ending went down a route that I was not expecting, and I'm so glad that it did. There was an element of the ending where I was like, yeah, I knew this was going to happen, but there's one point which I was like, I guess this was going to happen, but the surrounding element of why we get this plot point shocked me. I think it takes a lot of balls to do something like this. I just really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was super fun and exciting, and I was on the edge of my seat. I ended up audiobooking this because I found the beginning a little bit slow paced, and the audiobook was amazing. I get why people absolutely adored this book. I am intrigued to see where the sequel goes. I think James Islington has set himself up for something incredibly epic. I'm intrigued to see if he has the balls essentially to pull this off, because what we got, 10 out of 10, but can you pull it off? There we go. In second place is a book that I think a lot of you won't be surprised to see, and that is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. Again, this is another book that is a favorite of many, many, many people. This is bringing it back to very classic fantasy. If you watched my kind of reading plan for the year, one of the things is I want to go back to those kind of big, chunky, epic fantasies, and I do think I've done that. Well, this is not chunky in page count. It feels chunky in content. And Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb follows our main character, Fitz. Fitz is the bastard son of the heir to the throne, who then gets corralled into the royal family and raised as the royal family's assassin as a way to keep bastards in line and dedicated to the royal family. And we follow him from the ages of about 6 to 14, 15 as he learns the way of being an assassin and also learns the way of the magical power that is bestowed upon him by his different sides of his family. It is so good. So good. So good. I got you. Anyway, I always worry that when I see these big fantasy books that I'm going to be incredibly disappointed by what I read. I always worry that did I get to it too late, or have I read too much of the hype that now I can't get into it. This, again, another slow-paced book. I don't know what it is about slow-paced fantasy books this year. Slow-paced to the point that probably when the next book is double the size, I'll probably audiobook it, but it's so good. Fitz, I just love Fitz as a character so much. He has so much heart and so much soul and so much kindness in him, and he's only like a baby. And I really like the side characters, and I really like the world, and I really like the magic system, and I'm really scared because it gets super depressing apparently, and this book was depressing, so like get tissues. But I just really enjoyed it, and it felt so good to be sucked up into a world like this. I really enjoyed the exploration of male relationships, not necessarily romantic, but father, son, brother, friend. I thought that was done really, really well. I really liked the world. I found the political elements of it really fun. The ending, the last like third is so good. Everything that you've read on the internet about how good this book is, like they're not lying. They're not lying. It's so nuanced. It's so good. I can't wait to read the rest of the series. I will be bringing tissues because I know I'm going to cry because everybody has told me. This is worth every second of every bit of hype you have seen or heard of ever. The final one, my favorite book of 2025. I read this. Oh my God, when did I read it? Hold on. It's always about halfway through the year that I tend to read my favorite book of the year. And then I tend to choose my favorite book of the year by the book that has stuck with me the most. The book that I always go back and think of, that book is always my favorite. But if I cannot stop thinking about how much I love that book is automatically my favorite book of the year. So we read this for my book group that I run. I run a sci-fi fantasy book group. And this was one of the books that we chose. I read this book in April of this year and it blew my mind, and I've been thinking about it since April of this year. It is my go-to recommendation if somebody was to ask me, what was your favorite book of the year? What's your favorite fantasy book of the year? It would be this one. Drum roll, please. Boom! The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. So fucking good. So good. This is a kind of science fantasy mystery. So it's basically taking every single genre I love ever and smashing it into one book. I got this last year, only got around to reading it thanks to book group. It's set in a very, very interesting world. I'm going to try and explain it as quickly and as easy as I can. But in this world, they are surrounded by a big batch of sea. And every like flooding season, I can't remember what the season is specifically called, the country gets swarmed by massive fuck off underwater leviathans. And the country has been surviving ever since. They've got big walls, Attack on Titan style, and they harness the body of these leviathans that die on their shores to create biological, sciencey things that humans can then ingest, which gives them powers. It's kind of how to describe it. The book does a better, more nuanced, more fancy way of describing it. But for example, Dinios has magical maggots in his brain, which means that he can remember every single thing that he has ever seen associated by smell. One of the beginning scenes, he's at the death of this important Imperial officer who's found with a tree growing in his body. And he goes around with this little smelly stick and he literally scans the room to remember every single thing. He can remember every conversation that's ever had. It's incredible. And he is the assistant of a woman called Anna, who is batshit insane in the best way possible, but genuinely crazy as fuck. And they work together to solve the mystery of this Imperial officer. And obviously, it's so much more nuanced than just bad blood. It's politics heavy. It's world-ending heavy. It's so good. This book not only has one of the best dynamics that I've ever read in the history of ever, which is crazy fucking insane older female detective and her well-meaning, kind-hearted, but stoic young apprentice in a way. Incredible. It also has one of the most exciting and not really that seen before personally for me world ever. This science, fantasy, complicated world that the book does a really good job of making it not complicated. The plot is so twisty, turning. It's so good. I know the second book is out already, which is called A Drop of Corruption. The third book is called A Taste for Blood. I desperately want there to be 7,000 versions of this book. The characters across the board, really interesting. But the dynamic of Anna, who is so autistic coded, she needs to, like, every once in a while, she'll just sit there for 2 hours, get all the information. She goes, I must now go into my chamber. And her chamber is a cushion-lined chest. It's a sensory deprivation pocket. She is so entertaining and so good. And I love seeing women be so batshit insane and cool. And she swears a lot. And she's smart. She's the smartest woman, well, smartest person in the goddamn room. The magic system where it's this mixture of science and fantasy and magical fungi and the blood of these leviathans that try to smash into the country. Oh, good. So good. Like, I genuinely, like, if I could manipulate everybody's mind for one thing and one thing only, I would send out a beacon and it'd be like, read The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett and read it now. Incredible. Genuinely, I would put this up as one of the best books I've read ever, not just in 2025. Like, this is an ultimate favorite. This goes up into the Hall of Fame of favorite reads. I don't become a normal person when I talk about this book. I truly, truly think not only is it a solid fantasy book, it is a solid mystery book. Nothing, the quality of the fantasy writing doesn't go down to raise up the mystery and vice versa. Everything about this, so, God, I'm losing my voice. Everything about this is perfect. 10 out of 10, no goddamn notes. And when I was sat in that book group and people were like, oh, like it was like a 4.5, there were some things missing, I had to realize this reading is subjective, but they're all fucking wrong. That is it. Those are my favorite books of 2025. I'm so excited to see what 2026 will bring. April is the earliest time my favorite book has been secured. I'll be interested to see if my favorite book in the world is secured earlier, or if it's like last year, secured in December. Who knows? But thank you so much for watching. I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. As of filming this, I'm only a handful of subscribers away from 200 subscribers, which, bearing in mind I started this with no kind of concept of how this was gonna go, the fact that even 180 people are considering subscribing to me and watching my videos is crazy. So I will probably do a big, big thank you at another point, but a big honest thank you for following me on this journey. And I really, really hope you read these books, especially The Tainted Cup. But please like and subscribe and all of that fun stuff. And I will see you in the next video, which is, I don't know.